In this video, I'm going to show you a technique to improve your painting. A little bit of a strange way though. I'm using this paint to turn this painting to this painting. I hope you enjoy it. Hello there. In this video, I'm going to be going back to a painting that I did a little while ago, which is an impressionistic painting of a garden. And the colours are very bright. A while back I painted this painting, this is going back actually a few years, in my old studio, and it was really dark, and the lighting wasn't very good, and I painted this painting in the middle of winter and I thought, oh, that looks good, and then I came in the next day and it looked hideous. It was so bright, the colours were so wrong. So the lesson there was always have decent light when you're painting, natural light if possible. So I was so annoyed with it that I got some black paint and a medium, and I just scrubbed it all over the painting. And then I looked at it, I thought, you know, you idiot, what did you do that for? You've ruined the painting now. So I started taking some of the paint off where the flowers were, and it actually created a really beautiful effect. It was like kind of like stained glass, because a lot of the black came off, I wiped it off, and it just left some beautiful gem-like colours and some really interesting effects where the black had stayed. So I'm going to try it with this painting. I could ruin the painting, I know, but experimentation is the key to finding out new and exciting things that you can do. And if it does go wrong, hey, it goes wrong. But let's give it a go. Now I'm going to use I don't know if I'm going to use black. Am I going to use black? I've got lots of paint on my palette. Right. So, I'm not sure if I'm going to use black or if I'm going to use brown with black. Let's have a look. Actually, no, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to use raw umber. Gosh, I'm running out of raw umber. It's a disaster. And a little bit of very dark blue, and I can't remember what it's called, and I've thrown it's the end of something. Actually no, it's just Prussian blue, I think. Yeah, I think that's just Prussian blue. So I'm going to add some gloss medium to all of this, and that's just to loosen up the paint and add a bit of glazing liquid to that. And I'm going to get some kitchen towel. I'm going to get this all over my hands because I haven't got any gloves here. Always a good idea to have some gloves to do something like this, I think. So that's Prussian blue, a bit of brown. I don't know if that's going to work. I know I used pretty neat black on the one that I did before. I think this is too brown myself, but let's have a go. Yes, I think it needs to be. Does it need to be darker? Okay, so I've just added a bit of black to all of that, and I'm going to change my bit of tissue, which is falling apart already, to a piece of cloth. I always have a bit of cloth, like an old tea towel. It's always useful, particularly for doing something like this. I'm not being very, as you can see, accurate. So I've just mixed a bit of black in with that. And oh yeah, that's what happened the last time. This might have been a mistake. Right, let's see. Let's just do this like a corner. So you rub it on, then you take a lot of it off. Seems like a terrible waste of paint. But let's see what happens. So that's it on. Then you take a lot of it off. Then you get some water and you bring back the colour where you want it. I'm going to, you have to work quite quickly, so I'm glad I didn't do the whole thing, because I've just remembered that the time I did it before it was oils, and they, of course, the underneath layer was dry, but the top layer wasn't. So I have plenty of time to do this, and I'm using acrylics, obviously very different, and just playing around as I'm doing this and just wiping off quite a bit. Now, actually, it's slightly different from the time I did it before, but I do quite like it, because once it's left, it's just, so it's just damped down. The cake seems to have disappeared altogether. I don't think it has. Let's try it here. More water. So, you know, it really is an experiment. So now this is a much thinner version of what I did. Put that on, and you can see how here, when we've got lots of texture, the paint's sort of gripping to the lines. So now I'm going to go back in with a damp tissue, bit of cloth, and so it's sort of, I think it might be working, you know. It's kind of dulled it down. I don't want the sky to be too dull. But you can see the difference in colour between this and this. Now I can bring that colour back. Don't think I can do it with this, can I? It's just sort of dulled it down quite a bit. But I can bring it back in paint if I wanted to. So let's go ahead with the rest of it. I'm going to put more water on that. So I've added more water to my mix, and I think that's worked better. So it's a much looser mix. And I'm just going to put it all over. I don't think I'm going to do the sky. As you can see, it's quite rough. That's dulled that down completely. And now I'm going to get I think I'm going to go for a bit of tissue actually. And again, damp it and take out some of that paint to reveal colour where you want colour, and where you don't want as much colour, you can take some of that out. So you can see working very fast, only because acrylics dry so quickly, and it is quite a warm day today. So that's, you can see it's taken off quite a bit of paint. But it has just knocked that back a bit. And I think I prefer it, to be honest. I like these yellows here. I like this here when I originally painted it, so I'm going to make that nice and bright. So where you want it to be nice and bright, you just wash off more of the brown. That's me, Beans, it's me. Oh, yes. I think when there's knocking, it's somebody at the door. It's not, it's me banging my canvas. So you just keep working on it, and there's still brown in there, but I'm taking off some of the flowers. Just to bring that lovely colour back in. It's quite nerve-wracking, I suppose, doing this, because you don't know how it's going to work out, and you might think, wow, I did a lovely painting and now I might ruin the whole thing. But like I said, you know, you have to experiment to find different ways of approaching your painting and bringing it to life. And you know, as I said, it's years since I did this, and I've always thought I must try that again. And I really like. I think I really like the result. I'm going to show you a before and after before and after photograph. And you can sort of work on this and do more layers of it. You don't have to do just one. But I think it's adding a huge amount of depth to the painting. Now, the other thing I always notice when you go back to a painting, if you leave it for a few days, it's great because then you can go back and you see it with a fresh eye. And I'm going back into this thinking I don't like the sky. So I am going to get some colours on my palette, which is actually full of other colour because I was painting something else earlier. I don't like. Do I like it? No, I don't. And sometimes you can only see that if you've sort of been away from it for a while. So I'm just mixing up some blue. Get rid of those lines, which I don't really like. There we go. And you know, it could be quite an easy fix, to be honest. Let's get a nicer, clean. So I always like just doing different layers of colour. So don't just, you know, stop at one colour. Just go in and play with some more. You know, just made that background a little bit more uneven. I've got a nice little cloud there, which I quite like. Don't really want to spoil it, but I will just put that there. Use your fingers to make the edges a bit looser. Much better. I'm wondering if this bit here is a little bit white looking. So, just in here. So, I'm just going to take some green, a little bit darker, and just introduce a little bit of green in here. Not much. Just a little bit. So this is what I say, you know, start like a builder, finish like a jeweller. I've got this path going on here, which I think is far too kind of light, so that's not made a huge amount of difference, has it? Let's get a bit darker. Just, you know, adding more layers has helped that, really. And let's go with a bit more of that green. A bit darker going in, a little kind of olivey green coming in. Make sure the edges aren't wrong colour. still not 100% with what's going on here actually, so I've got to get another brush and just put a little bit more green in, just to knock back some of that white that's going on in there. More in there. Quite like the blues going in here. Now look how I've just brought those blues out a little bit, and that's livened up that. So that's really interesting how that has brought that back to life a bit. Same, I think this bit needs more. It needs more layers, really, doesn't it? So I'm just finding colours on my palette. Nice. Trying not to have colours that shapes that is not colours, shapes that are too similar to one another. And just where things aren't looking quite right, just doing a little bit of adjustment. So in here I'm just bringing in a bit of yellow because those colours work really well together. But I think I want that to be a really bright yellow, looking at it. See if that's not going to be too... Because I really like what's going on there. Let's see what happens if I do it here. So there's some kind of... That may not work. Let's have a look. And if I get a dry brush, I can just loosen. I don't want sharp edges, so I'll just loosen that up a bit. And then you can just bring a little bit of life back in some areas, not too much. Done a bit too much there, I think. So get my wet tissue and knock that back again. Not sure what's going on here with all this white. That's not a very nice colour at all, actually. Let's get rid of that. So I've knocked that back, that looks better. Just a little bit of something to break that up. I love that flash of light you've got going in there, that's really nice. Let's get, I've got lots of brushes with different colours on. Let's get, there's a, am I going to find it again? Kind of a lovely maybe colour down here, and I think I'd like to get just a few more. Got a really big line down here, which I don't like. Let's get rid of that. Funny bit of blue there. really nice and light in there. And too dark. Okay. So that's the wow. Don't want anything too dark to go on there, but okay. Lovely grey green here, which is actually rather beautiful, which I'm using a little bit everywhere. Stop. You know what it's like, you keep on going. So I think I'm happy with that. Have we got enough darks in it? Maybe I could go darker in some places, but you get the idea. Just going back in after a few days, you see things and you think, that's not working. And I did feel the colours, for my taste at any rate, were too bright. So I have knocked it back a bit. And it was a really, actually, in the end, quite simple, although slightly nerve-wracking experience. But I'm now going to take a photograph of this and compare it with the painting that's underneath it. And hopefully it's better. You may prefer the first one. It's a judgment call. But I think it's worth taking the risk, because now I'm in a position to look at both paintings, even though one of them's disappeared, and decide if that's something that I'd like to put into my work in the future. So I hope this has been useful. If it has, do subscribe. Thank you if you already have subscribed, and do hit the like button. It's lovely to be with you again. Bye for now.